All right, I think we're live. I think we have been for a few seconds. Happy Friday, everyone. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. I'm here today to help you break down tonight's MLB main slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. We got the slates locking right around 7 Eastern Standard Time. So I'm just going to go for the next 20 to 30 minutes or so answering any questions you have, just kind of giving my general thoughts on the slate. If you haven't already, please like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. That helps us get more free content like this out to you. If you're not a member of Occupy, check the links in the description below. As a member, you get access to the model you see here. We also have a single lineup builder, multi lineup builder, and our daily plug article where we're highlighting our favorite plays, stacks, bats, and pitchers, etc. And yeah, follow me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. But we got a big slate here. We got 12 games. I'm not going to go through game by game, obviously, not something I could probably do in just 20 to 30 minutes, but I do want to just kind of give the slate overview. And if you are using the model, do make sure that you're selecting the slate option here for FanDuel or DK Main. It's the same slates on both sites, so it really doesn't matter which way you go. But if you don't select that, you're going to get those 640 games, and I think there was even an earlier game at 220. Cubs Dodgers might slip into there as well. So just make sure you are marking off that it is the main slate. So first and foremost, there is one weather game I think we need to keep an eye on. I'm not all that interested in either side. It's the Marlins at the Guardians. Looks like there's a decent chance this one ends up postponed. Neither team has an implied total over 4 runs. So not a lot of offense there. And then Plesac is a pitcher who doesn't have much K upside. Braxton Garrett, talented kid, but on a slate this big, I just don't know that we need to get to him. So I'm fine just almost totally ignoring that game, which is what I'm going to do here. Um, but yeah, there are plenty of other options to choose from. So if we take that game off, we're still left with 11 games. And the best part about it is, particularly on this slate, ownership does look pretty flat for both the pitchers and the stacks. There's only say 3 to 6 pitchers I'm really interested in, but there are a ton of stacks that I like tonight. And if you're sorting by ownership on DK, we're seeing the Rangers very popular, Brewers, Padres, Phillies, Yankees, D-backs, but they're all pretty evenly owned. We're seeing 30 to 70% in aggregate ownership. Texas a little bit of an outlier there, but they do look excellent. In this spot against JP Sears and that Athletics bullpen, which is terrible. And then over on FanDuel, 80% for Philadelphia. Keep in mind you're mostly playing 2 stacks per lineup, so that 80 isn't as inflated as we're seeing on other slates. Some of those core slates last week, I know when we broke the slate down on Tuesday, I think we were looking at 150% ownership in some of those spots. So obviously a lot to like here. Plenty of different spots you can consider. So on a slate like this, I mean, I don't know. You don't want to go with 2 of the top most popular stacks, probably from the same two on the same site, but you can pretty much play what you like. So you're really going to want to hone in on your favorite stacks, your favorite bats from those stacks, and then you can kind of keep things tight as far as a pitcher pool goes. If we're sorting by OF index, we are seeing Tyler Mahle towards the top. No real surprise to me there. He is drawing decent ownership on both sites. I will say though, and the field agrees, so I do like Aaron Nola. I think he's a little bit safer. Even John Gray, I think, is a similar option to Tyler Mahle. We're just not really seeing much discrepancy in the ownership there. So if you're going to trust the model, and that is usually the move, then Tyler Mahle is a really strong play tonight, especially in tournaments. It does look like there could be some rain in Minnesota. Mahle has been a little bit inconsistent to start the season, but he's been in some really tough matchups. He took on the Yankees and the Astros his last 2 times out. So he's facing a national squad here whose total is sub 3 runs. So 2.42 is what we're showing in the model. Other sites, I think, have them still sub 3. So, regardless, really nice spot for Tyler Mahle here. And if his ownership doesn't come up, um, yeah, probably one of my favorite tournament plays tonight on both sites. I like him a lot. Aaron Nola, another player I just spoke on briefly, very solid here. Colorado, just not the same offense away from cores. Even in cores, they're not that great this year. So, no reason not to like Nola here, who has historically been a much better pitcher at home. John Gray, as well. Mostly that's just a product of the matchup here against Oakland. He has shown decent K upside this season. And then we also have guys like Shohei Ohtani. If you can afford him, very expensive, very popular, but at the same time, Casey's been making a lot of these arms look good lately. So obviously a very high ceiling for Ohtani here, perhaps the highest ceiling of any of the arms on the board. But at the same time, you're paying a premium to get to him. So for me, I really like Nola, Mahle, Gray, Ohtani. Those are my 4 favorite pitchers. Most of my lineups will feature them. Um, On DK, Joey Lucchesi is an interesting option here. He is pretty much fully stretched out, getting the promotion up from AAA. I think with Scherzer now suspended, that rotation's pretty thin right now. So you could get to Lucchesi against the Giants, who aren't great against lefties. I believe Joey's a lefty. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, he is. So, not a great team against lefties, but they do a decent job platooning their guys. So, expect to see Flores, Estrada, Davis, Ruff, a lot of right-handed bats in that lineup. But if you're desperate to pay up for bats, sure, punt with Lucchesi, feel okay about it. I wouldn't expect much of an upside, but at the same time, you're playing a player like that to fit in bats. It's kind of a cause and effect in that regard. Other arms I consider. On a smaller slate, I'd have interest in Hunter Brown, really talented young kid, very high K upside, but a brutal matchup here with Atlanta. They do offer K upside up at the same time, extremely volatile spot. So probably won't get to Brown. I do like Gallon and Kirby, even though they're in difficult matchups. I'll add Peralta into that group as well. Gallon, Kirby, Peralta, all solid upside plays, but very, very inconsistent and also in difficult matchups. So if you're playing a bunch of lineups tonight, those are three guys I consider getting to. But if you're only playing a handful, the only pitchers I'm really interested in are these top four in our model. That's Molly, Nola, Gray, and Otani. I'm just taking a look over at the stream, seeing if we have. Um, any comments here. So, Bidon, you're talking about Ashcraft and Keller. The issue is neither of them are on the slate. I believe those are both 640 games. So, I love Ashcraft. He's in all my season-long teams. Player I've been very high on the past couple of years. Keller as well, very high K upside against the Reds. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about them because that game's not on the main slate. Neither is the Rays White Sox game. So, if you're getting to Pirates, Reds, White Sox, Rays, you need to just adjust the model so that you're locking in just the DK or the FanDuel main slate. Again, the forearms I'm really interested in are those top four. They are popular though in Molly, Nola, Gray, and Otani. I'll roll the dice on some Gallon, Kirby, Peralta as well, and then maybe a little Lucchesi on DK, but not something I'm really prioritizing. That's more of a play to just load up on bats. What else do we got going on here, guys? Welcome, welcome. Um, yeah, Patrick, the model always loves Teoscar Hernandez. I'll touch on him quickly. Anytime he faces a lefty, if you're talking about players ISO to against the hand of the pitcher they're facing, he's one of the best in the league against lefties. I know his ISO is like in the 3 to 400 range. Let's see here. Where is he? I guess he's not popping as high as maybe I'd expect him to. Oh, yeah, Steven Matz, obviously a pretty good left-handed pitcher, but it's funny. The Mariners are playing the Cardinals tonight, and I view these teams very similarly. Whenever they're playing a mediocre lefty, I like them, regardless of what the game total is, regardless of ownership. They just have tons of righty power. Both these teams do. So whenever they're facing a righty, I have interest. Tonight's no exception. Matt's obviously a decent arm, but at the same time, you're getting guys like Hernandez who mash right-handed pitching, even Eugenio Suarez, AJ Pollock for cheap. These are guys that just historically crush lefties, and we're looking at five guys with ISOs over 200 in this particular matchup. So Hernandez is a nice play. I wouldn't mind using him as a one-off. Again, just ridiculously high power metrics against left-handed pitching. 361. That's just totally um, appealing to me, for lack of a better word. And I mean, if we're looking at the entire slate as a whole, like Zanino has a very high ISO in his matchup. We talked about how we're gonna have to deal with weather in that game. Schwarber against the kid Noah Davis for Colorado. I'll talk about the Phillies in a minute. Another really high ISO play, and then third on the entire list is Teoscar Hernandez. Take Zach Neto with a grain of salt there. Talented young player, but that is likely an inflated number because we're dealing with a very small sample size on him. So just keep that in mind when you're kind of sorting by ice. So just make sure the guys have enough at bats at the major league level. He is a good player here in this matchup, but at the same time, I think his numbers are a little bit inflated just because we're dealing with that small sample size. Um, but yeah, so I touched on pitchers. I mentioned my four favorites. They're all pretty popular. But yeah, mix and match. I think there are so many good stacks on this slate that you can kind of eat some chalk at pitcher. And it's not like it's super sharp chalk. Like we're not sharp. That's not the word I'm looking for. Not severe chalk. Like we're not looking at any arms that are like over 50% owned, I don't think, on either side. Even on DK where you're playing two arms, both the higher owned guys and Otani and Nola are coming in under 50%. So yeah, I think you can play those pitchers. Rangers and feel pretty good about it as long as you're mixing in more contrarian stacks. We're seeing the Phillies as extremely popular here. I think they should be. They're facing this kid Noah Davis. I think we stacked against him last time out. I'm trying to remember who he faced. The Mariners. Yeah, he faced the Mariners and he pretty much shut them down. But if you look into his minor league numbers, like this is not a pitcher who should be as dominant as he's looked to this point. I think as teams get a little bit more film on him and they see what he's about, kind of similar to a Joe Anderson burrito for the Yankees. Once teams can kind of identify that pitch mix and they know what's coming, they can kind of guess. And yeah, I don't think he's throwing too many pitches. I'm looking into him now on my other monitor. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks like he's got fastball, slider, changeup. He throws his sinker a ton. Um, and yeah, I mean Schwarber, Castellanos, Turner, they all hit his pitch mix pretty well. Um, but yeah, this is not some superstar ace that we need to be worrying about. I mean, his xFIP is north of 4.5 runs, which tells me he's due for considerable regression. I actually favor left-handed bats against him, but we really don't have enough of a sample to consider him a pitcher with severe splits. So Philly looks great here. They're just super popular on both sites. So I don't know. Maybe Davis can fool him once again. Maybe he gets a couple more wins before teams start to figure him out. So as the chalkiest stack on the slate, that's kind of merit to maybe get away from them. But at the same time, I mean, on paper they look excellent. There's a reason their implied total is pushing 6 runs. We have it over 6 runs in the model. No surprise at all to me there. I mean, if we're just talking raw points, I think my favorite stack tonight is the Texas Rangers. JP Sears, former Yankee bullpen arm, really mediocre lefty. Rangers have a lot of righty power, and once they get into that bullpen, that Oakland bullpen just really hasn't been that great. So really nice upside for them as well. Not really rating as highly in the model in terms of OF rating, but we do see the high team total here. And yeah, I think some of those numbers came out before this lineup came out. It is righty heavy. We are getting Duran in there tonight. Grossman batting second, dirt cheap if you're stacking Rangers. Really like Simeon. I would prioritize John Garcia and Simeon from the right side if you are stacking Rangers. Really solid option here, but again, pretty popular. Milwaukee getting a lot of love against Nick Pivetta. Pivetta, decent arm. Yeah, he doesn't miss many bats though. Milwaukee's been fine. Don't mind them. Their total around 5 runs as well. San Diego drawing a lot of ownership. I know there's a lot of excitement with Tatis back. He is no longer min price on DK, so I'm fine getting a little bit away from them. I'm actually a big believer in Zach Gallen and his abilities. So while San Diego could get a few runs off him here, it's really not a spot I'm looking to chase at relatively high ownership. And when I say high ownership, I just mean for this slate. The Angels are getting a lot of love here as well. I do like them a lot. I'm just pulling up that matchup on my other screen. So yeah, they're facing. I thought they were facing the Rays because they have Yarbrough coming in after an opener, but they're facing Taylor Clark and then Ryan Yarbrough for the Royals. Two really mediocre arms. The one issue with stacking Angels is you can't use Otani because he is pitching tonight. These sites still haven't figured that out, but at the same time, I think any of these batters, I mean, 1 through 8, really. I don't have much interest in Matt Tice at the bottom of the order. He'll probably homer just because I said that, but Ward, Trout, Rendon, Renfro, Urshela, Drury, Neto, all really talented bats and all pretty affordable after Trout. So nice stack with the Angels. We get the Yankees against Kikuchi popping up in the model. No surprise there. I mean, Kikuchi, pretty talented arm when he's on point. When he's off, though, he gives up a lot of home runs. Obviously, that is the strength of that Yankees lineup. So kind of a boom or bust GPP option. Um, but yeah, I really like Texas. And again, though, all this ownership's so flat. I think there's a lot of different places you can go. I didn't talk about the Orioles much yet. I really like the Orioles here. I'm favoring the lefties for them against Michael Lorenzen. Pretty mediocre arm. Obviously, a talented lineup. They're a little bit overpriced, I think, on both sides at the top of that order, but you could mix in some of the cheaper pieces to make them more affordable. So Orioles, Rangers, Angels, three of my favorite stacks tonight. You can see the varying ownership. ownership. But yeah, things are pretty flat tonight, so you can kind of play what you like. Good night to play multiple lineups. I think make sure you are stacking heavily. That's having at least one 5-man when you're building lineups on DK. I prefer to have two 4-man stacks on FanDuel, but you can go with 4-3 and a one-off as well. I think that's totally fine. And then on DK, if we're talking secondary stacks, love the 5-3s if you can make them work, but at the same time, 5-2 or even 5 with 3 one-offs if they're really solid one-off plays. As long as you're getting that 5-man in there, I think you have a good chance to climb the leaderboard if your team does go off. So I'm taking a look now, seeing what other questions we have. Yeah, I see you mentioned the Baltimore stack, Patrick. That's before I even looked at your comments, so it seems like we're on the same page. Really, really like them here. And you mentioned the stolen base upside too. They have been one of the more aggressive teams on the base pass. A lot of teams seeing more stolen bases this year. Not something too many people are factoring in on a night-to-night basis, but it's certainly a plus. And against Lorenzen, I mean, I just really like this team as a whole. Um, what else? Best punt catcher. Let's take a look. I'll show you how to use the model if that's what you're trying to figure out. So you could go by DK position or FanDuel position. Um, I think most of the catchers are going to come up as catchers on both sites, though. We'll stick with DK because you get those first basemen mixed in on FanDuel when you go about it that way. Um, and then let's say for punt, we want to go anyone 2,500 or cheaper on FanDuel. And I'll just get a general answer for you. Anyone kind of 3,200. So sorting by OF index, we get Higashioka up here. If you're punting catcher, I try to correlate it with your other bats. I mean, it's an easy way to kind of expand on those stacks. Alvarez, really talented kid for the Mets. It looks like he should be in the lineup tonight, even batting ninth. I don't mind him. Um, Tice, if he is batting ninth. I know I jinxed him into a home run here for the Angels, so he has some appeal. But yeah, I guess Higgy, if he can find a little bit more salary, we get some better options. Not really. I mean, I guess it's Higashioka. And the thing about Higashioka, I mean, he's really not a guy who hits for average, but he does have home run upside, especially against left-handed pitchers. So he does have some upside here. Um, but yeah, it's really him for me. I'm really not all that excited to get to him. But like I said, if you just find whoever's cheap in the stack that you're building, that's probably the way to go. Um, there's just not many good catchers at all tonight. Obviously, Adley Rushman at top, he looks really solid. Um, Melendez is cheap on FanDuel. Don't mind him, but against Otani, really not someone I'm trying to get to at all. Um, so yeah, I mean we're scraping for value at catcher. There's really not much, but I think Higashioka is a good play. What else? Okay, so I get a DK window up, I get a FanDuel window up. I'll slowly just kind of build where I'm at. If I was just kind of building like a mid to small GPP type build, so like I said, I mean, there's a lot of pitchers to like tonight. I'll go with Nola and Tyler Mahle. They are chalk though, so keep that in mind. They're both very popular, so we're gonna want to go with a bit more contrarian of a stack option. Sort by ownership over on DK. We see Baltimore. They're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down. Um, and then yeah, I mean 40% aggregate ownership. That's not bad. Um, I think that's the spot I want to go. We're seeing a pretty high team total on them too. So even eating chalky pitcher, I'm pretty comfortable going with a 5-man Baltimore stack. And then we could find ways to get different while we select these bats, or we're going with one off. So they got the lineup in. Like I said before, I'm favoring lefties against Lorenzen here. Rutschman is a priority for me. Really like Mullins. Mountcastle's on fire, but at the same time, he has cooled off a bit. So I don't know. We want to make sure we're getting correlation. I don't want to leave too many spots in the order. But we got Mullins, Rutschman, Santander, Frazier, Gunnar Henderson. So that's a 5-man Orioles stack. And we're leaving out Mountcastle, which is scary. Obviously, he has massive home run upside. Austin Hayes, another good player, power and speed. But at the same time, I really like these guys. Again, we're favoring left handed pitching. If they get into the bullpen, it's not going to matter. But first couple times of the order, I really do like the lefties here. And then we're left with 3,400 per player. So we already filled that catcher spot, which I like to do with these 5-mans when we don't have much good value at catchers, so we don't have to worry about that. Um, yeah, let's see what's popping. We got first base, shortstop, and outfield. I think we could move Gunner to short if we wanted. Um, but yeah, let's go to DK. Sort by OF index. What did I say? We have like 3,400 per player. So we can go a little over or a little under with our guys as we try to equal things out. But yeah, I mentioned Neto as a good play for the Angels at short. Let's go ahead and add him. Um, yeah, that lineup isn't out yet. I'll feel better about him if he's towards the top of the order. There is a chance he bats 8th or ninth. But talented young player. I like him at 3K. Then let's see what we get for first baseman. It's the right page. What did I do? Yeah. Okay. We got Vinny P against Otani. I mean, really low owns, really high upside. Model loves him. I mean, if we're not playing Otani and super large field stuff, that's probably the type of play you might want to use there. A little bit risky for my taste, though. Let's see, what else do we have? It's really not much. I think we got to go a little bit more expensive here. And then, oh, okay, so we got a nice little two-man here. We got Neto. We go Brandon Drury from the Angels. And then we're left with 3,500 for an outfielder. Let's just see what that leaves us with. So we get the 5-man, we got a 2-man. Um, Man, kind of an ugly range, not gonna lie. Uh, I really like Jesse Winker against Pavetta. I do favor lefties against Pavetta. I could see him hitting a home run tonight. So leaves 400 on the table. We got a 5-man Orioles, Nolan Malley. We're eating some chalk at pitcher, but I imagine Winker's going to be low on that 2-man Angel stack. When people are stacking Angels, those aren't the first two bats that are going to come out of their mouth. So I really like this team here as a solid GPP build. So we'll go ahead and clear that. Let's take a look over on FanDuel now. So Otani, obviously massive upside, but he's super expensive. Um, Nola's probably my favorite. Molly in the matchup, though, it is a really nice bounce back spot, but I'll go with Nola for now. And then let's sort by ownership on FanDuel. Philly's way up there. Don't want to do that one. Could go back to Baltimore, but I'd rather talk about other stacks than. We'll go with Texas. They're pretty chalky, so we're gonna have to get pretty contrarian. The model loves Seattle. They're way down the list though for ownership, so let's go with Texas and Seattle. Let's see what we can come up with. Starting with Seattle. Wish that lineup was out, but we know which guys hit well against lefties. We'll get Suarez. We'll get Hernandez. We'll get Pollock in there. And then we'll start with the Rangers, knowing we should probably get at least one more Mariner in there. Um, who did I say? We like the price on Grossman, but we want to prioritize Adalis and Marcus Simeon. So that's 3. What are we looking at? Short. Ugh, gross. Yeah, maybe we end up using a one-off at short. I do like John Heim. He's a switch hitter. We're left with 4,400 for a one-off at shortstop. I mean, that's not bad. You like Lindor? You go with him, or 100 off of Tatis. I think you could get creative and find a way to get to him. So, yeah, maybe we just do this. Go down to Tyler Molly. That's the. And then you could get that Tatis one off that burnt everyone yesterday on TK. Maybe he's really low on tonight. Obviously, upside against Gallen. I mean, I'm not rushing to get to him, but something like that definitely feels pretty solid here as well. So, really, really easy to build tonight. I think, like I said before, Otani, um, Nola, Molly, Gray. Those are my 4 favorite pitchers. I'm going to have mostly them on both sites. But there are a few other options to consider. Definitely check out the model and plug for those. But tons of stacks we like here. Really, a lot of them. I'm about to wrap up, guys. If you have any more questions, get them in. I'll stay on another minute or two. Definitely like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter. I'm about to hop off this and start building my lineups. I got a bunch reserved, so really fun slate. Love these Friday slates, mostly because ownership stays pretty flat. So a lot to like here. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Let's go sort by OF index. Maybe I'll make some home run calls as we round things out. I put Schwarber on the cover of the video this morning. Really like him against Noah Davis. I'm guessing he goes yard here. I know there's some controversy around Hernandez, but whenever we can get him against the lefty, I'll say he's a good shot to home run here. Um, let's add Drury to that mix. I think he's kind of a contrarian option for the Angels. And then I don't know. Josh Jung, I really like for Texas as well against the lefties. So those are some decent home run calls. Fun slate tonight, everyone. Once again, I appreciate you tuning in. Feel free to at me on Twitter, or if you're in the Discord, also you can at me there. I will answer your questions as well. Um, yeah, Patrick, interesting comment here. Rockies struck out 15 times yesterday and still won. When Nola out there going deep in the game, I like him over Otani and GPPs. I'm with you, man. I said Nola's probably my favorite play here. I think Otani is going to be comparable in terms of upside. Like I wouldn't bet Nola to score more points, but you're getting a huge discount on him on both sites. So yeah, 9,400 compared to 10,800 on DK, 9,300 compared to 11,400 on FanDuel. So Nola, my favorite pitcher on the slate, followed by Molly, Otani, Gray. Those four I love. Gray's definitely the riskiest of that group, even against Oakland. But yeah, I just like to broaden my pool a little bit. And like I said before, guys like Gallen, Kirby, Peralta, if you're playing a ton of lineups, even Lucchesi on DK, maybe Tyler Wells, who seems to be over-owned on DK. Probably won't get to him tonight, but a really solid option here. But yeah, once again, everyone, thank you. Let's have some fun tonight, make some money, take care, and good luck.